What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose. Let's just say this episode was not in the works. We were not planning on this. I was honestly kind of blown away by what took place this morning and later this afternoon, but it is now official. Brian Ferentz will no longer be the offensive coordinator for Iowa football, something that Tyler and I have been saying, not just us, every single fan in Iowa's fan base has wanted it to happen. And it felt like it was never going to happen. But here we are. It finally happened. And I got Tyler here. It's kind of funny because the last episode I did was Iowa basketball. And I said, well, I'll see you guys on the next week's podcast. We'll talk the Northwestern game and then any other information that kind of comes out between now and then. Did not think this was going to happen.
Here we are.
Here we are. So,
yeah, no, I was just gonna say I have not been more excited to do a podcast that I can remember in recent memory. To be honest with you, Collin, little backstory real quick. I was working out after work, and I was like, I'm gonna call you, and let's discuss this Brian Ferentz news. We haven't talked really about it besides what we sent each other back on Twitter and a few text messages back and forth. And you had the great idea. You're like, let's just do a podcast off the cuff. Let's not dive into anything until we get on this pod and let's do one. And great idea. I'm super excited to talk about it. And yeah, curious to hear your thoughts as well. So
it'll be all raw, talking about it one-on-one instead of like talking about it and then doing a podcast later. Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, it's just like, man, like today I was driving to Omaha. I had a meeting in Omaha today, and I got a text from my brother saying, "Oh my God," and that's all he had right away. And both me and the other person were like, "What?" And he like sent us something that was like in one of the forums. I think it was on Hawkeye Report, and it just said something about Brian, and it's just like, there's no way. I mean, like, there's just no way. But then start seeing more and more, and about an hour later, I was like, I think this is like legit. I mean, you're starting to hear a lot of things, and at that point, you kind of felt like it was going to happen. Now, at that time, it was like, okay, is he going to actually be done now, or is it going to be after the season? Now, for me, like, if I wish it was now, like I really do. I wish it, like, since it happened, I wish it was just like, let's just get it over and done with. But at that point, you're just nitpicking on what like you really want to happen. And it's like, whatever, at least it happened. I preferred it to maybe happen where he's just done now, but it is what it is. Let's just finish this season off. We only got 4 games left in the regular season, bowl game, maybe another game if we make it to the Big Ten championship game. I can live with 2 more months of Brian Ferentz, knowing that he is done on maybe January 1st, because maybe that's when the bowl game will be. I don't know, so.
Right. Yeah, no, Collin, my initial reaction, and credit to you, because I was at work. I don't have my phone on me when I'm working. And when I get back from my few breaks that I have throughout the day, you sent a text and you're like, there's rumors that this is going to happen. And I'm like, wait, oh my God, what? And I went to Twitter. I started seeing some things like you had mentioned at that time, but that was at like 10 o'clock when it was pretty much like, okay, this is like kind of like official, and couldn't be more like, I was so happy because it's like you said, it's been so long and we've been talking about it for so many years in this podcast. And it's like, to finally see some change is just great. And really the first thing that I thought of though, when this came out and when you sent it to me, was, man, what is, like, where would we be without Beth Getz? Seriously. NIL, transfer portal, willing to accept it, embrace it. And then, with Swarm and everything like that. And now this, like, man, credit to her. She is awesome at what she does so far.
She needs to be the permanent AD now. And I kind of said it, I kind of went, I'm not going to take full credit because I kind of went with what John Miller said. This was probably back in the summertime. And I really took that. And I know I said it a lot on this podcast, where I felt like Beth, she's going to get the real job, the permanent job, sometime probably in January, early in next year. And there's just no way in hell she was going to keep Brian Ferentz, because that would just turn off the entire fan base. And that's why I felt very confident that this would be Brian's last year. Cause I just did not see any sort of possibility where Beth would do it, but I thought it was going to be after the year. So that goes to show that Beth is not messing around. She is nothing like the old AD, Gary Barta, cause Gary Barta would never do this. She is all business. And I'm going to read what she said today, just real quick. I'm sure a lot of people have already seen it, but some of the things that strike me from this, that catches my eye. It's like, yeah. So she starts off saying, anyone who loves Iowa football recognizes both the success and challenges that have brought attention to our program this season. Our struggles on offense, coupled with the offensive coordinator's contract, make this a unique situation. After conversations with head coach Kirk Ferentz, coach Brian Ferentz, and President Wilson, I informed Brian that our intention is for him to be with us through the bowl game, but this is his last season with the program. Making this known today is the best interest of our program and its loyal fans. It provides clarity during the pivotal time in the schedule. So what I get from that is she knows the apathy of the Iowa fan base. We're starting to grow frustrated, and after you grow frustrated, you start losing the lack of interest,
support,
the enthusiasm. Yeah. And that when you get to that point, it's really hard to try to get things back to where it used to be. And she knows this is a pivotal time. And she says it best that something needs to happen now. Now, yes, we are keeping him until the end of the season, but at least the clarity we know as fans that it's at least over after this year. Even if the next 2 months are horrible, like the offense is still really bad, which it probably will be, at least we know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Right. Yep. And that's just kind of what I took from it. And I think she and Beth, no, I mean, she sees it loud and clear. I mean, it's not good. She's like us. She knows that this is horrible. Offense is horrible. Something needs to be done about it. And I personally think Kirk did not want this to happen. And this just goes to show Beth has a lot of balls to do this. And I love it. I absolutely love it because at the end of the day, I've said this from day one. Kirk, under Gary Barta, he was like the main guy. Like he was like a step ahead of Gary, and that it should not be that way. Gary is your boss, but it felt like Kirk had too much control in the athletic department, that it was kind of his way or the highway on everything. And it should not be that way. And this is why we even got to this point in the first place. So I give Beth so much credit, and I'm just so happy she did this because like I said, even though I know the next 2 months, it's still going to be bad. I know that at least there's going to be some changes coming up here soon. It generates that spark.
Well, she did what we've been wanting to really have done during these bye weeks, if you will, for the last couple of years. Nothing, right? No changes on the staff, no promotion, demotion, firings, hirings, no changes with the actual scheme, nothing. It's business as usual on these bye weeks. And usually we come out looking like the same, if not worse, against our next opponent after a bye week. Go look at the previous years. And she decided enough's enough. You're exactly right. She doesn't have any ties to Kirk and this football program. And she had the courage to do what Gary would have never dreamed of doing. Yep. And that is make a change. Now, is this going to mean that everything is going to be just completely different come next year? I don't know. We've said that on this podcast multiple times. Kind of starts and ends with Kirk, but there has to be the first domino that falls. And in my opinion, I've said this multiple times, it's Brian. You have to at least try something different. Yep. And you're exactly right. There was I saw something on Twitter was sounds like Kirk was unhappy with it. Well, dude, you don't have that sort of say or power anymore. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, for you to be unhappy with that decision, to me, kind of speaks volumes about kind of Kirk. And dude, if she didn't pull the trigger, is it business as usual come next year again?
See, and that's, I don't know that's a good question.
It sounds like it, man. I don't even know really what to say besides she did something that we've all been wanting for so long. And you're exactly right. I think she got to the point where she's like, I can't lose this fan base, because you're exactly right. Once people stop showing up to games, it's hard to get them to come back. You have to give them a reason to keep coming to the game. And this is a step in that right direction for sure.
Yep. Even though we were 6-2, it really felt like after that Minnesota game, like,
well, yeah,
I don't know. It just felt like things were just going so far downhill. And like, if we just keep this up, it's going to be bad. Not only that, but, and this kind of goes to the next thing I was going to say was, some people might question the timing. Like, why not just wait till the end of the year? But I think there's a couple of reasons. We just touched on the fan base and just providing some sort of just like enthusiasm back, like, okay, right. Knowing, but it also is because of two other reasons: recruiting and the transfer portal. Yes. Now you have, once the season ends, in the end of November, you have all month of December to really get out in front of it and
let the recruits know.
Yeah, yes. And help the recruiting and get guys in the transfer portal. Now it also allows us more time. It allows Beth more time to figure out, okay, who's the next OC going to be. Gives them plenty of more time instead of just letting it play out and
or making a rash decision. Right.
Yeah.
You allow yourself that time to go out and get the right person. Right.
Yep.
So
and I think another reason why I think the timing was good is because it ends the entire distraction of, oh, how many points do we have on offense for Brian and the national storylines and all the distractions? No, let's take all that weight off our shoulders. Let's go out. We're 6-2. We have 4 games left. Let's try our best to win the West, make it to the Big Ten championship game, and make it to a bowl game. Yeah. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's the goal. And let's take all that off and, just this whole like tension. And I'm sure Kirk is pissed, but there has to be a little bit of part of him where it's like it's kind of like, okay, well, is all this situations like it's probably it's probably going to happen eventually. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's kind of the way I look at it too, because I mean, we were talking about this like a week ago. Like, okay, what's going to happen? How is it going to happen? I think we're Beth is in a tough spot. How is it going to shake out? Well, now we know, and it's kind of just feels like for everybody, kind of. You feel a little bit relieved from it all.
Yeah. And another thing, like again, going back to like that fan support kind of aspect of it too. It's like every offseason we're sitting here and wondering what's going to happen, what's going to change. Right. Well, now we just mentioned it, like you get out in front of it. Now we don't have to really ask ourselves like, or get nervous about the future. Like, at least we know that we are putting pen to paper. We are changing, right? Yep. We're changing who is playing or calling plays. Also, who is working with the quarterback. I mean, that's another big thing. It just makes too much sense. And I'm really, like you said, personally, I wish, if you're going to do it, why not just end it now? But maybe it's just, saying like, hey, you got us to this point. Like, let's just finish out the year. It is what it is with this season. And
because we only have four more games left in the regular season.
And so I can't really disagree with that. And like you said, as long as this was happening, I'm okay with it for sure.
And another thing that creates a little bit of like a optimistic view for me is, okay, with Beth doing this now and just saying, okay, it's done. Like, we need a change. I really think that she is going to be really involved in who the next OC is going to be. I think she recognizes the fact that this ain't this ain't going to cut it, this offense. So even if like Kirk tries to stay in house or, tries, like, I think Beth is going to be like, no, this is not going to happen. Like, we got to, and that's why I feel very optimistic. Like, she just seems like a type of person that is like, she recognizes who's coming into the Big Ten. She recognizes that this style is not going to cut it. And that's what I'm really excited about. So
she's getting with the times.
Yes,
for sure.
Exactly. So we sit here today. So the first step is done. Like, that was one thing that we said last year, right? Fire Brian. And then the next step is, okay, what does Kirk do now? Okay. Does Kirk, and this was last year when we were talking about this, we knew Kirk wasn't going to leave. So at that point, we're like, can Kirk hire OC and say, okay, I'm giving the full reins to them. But now it's like going into this year, now that like Brian's not just stepping down, like he's essentially getting fired. What does Kirk do? Does he stay after the year? I mean, I don't know. Like, does he just kind of give up his stubbornness and just say, okay, I'm going to go with the times and actually go out and get an OC and, let them do their thing. Like, it really makes you wonder, like, what the next step will be after all this is takes place.
Yeah, I really don't know the answer to that question yet, because I don't know how willing he is to adapt to all this change. Like you just mentioned, that's the $1 million question, right? Is he still motivated in this age of college football and what would be 2024? Like, is he okay with going out and like you just mentioned, bringing in an offensive coordinator who knows what the hell he's doing and maybe revamping or changing this offense? Like, if he's not, then maybe it's best he steps down. Maybe he's not willing to want to go through that, and he's like, okay, I want to be done and let somebody else figure all this out. I don't know. I would love for him to stay, but if I guess he's not willing to accept change, then maybe it's best for everyone that somebody else steps in. I don't know. It's a big question.
This is what I'm afraid of. So Kirk stays, which I want him to stay. Like, I want him to stay as long as he is willing to accept the reality that things need to change and that he's willing to give the reins up and actually hire an outside OC. But this is what I'm afraid of, is that Kirk stays and he hires that offensive analyst that we have right now, that John Boudmeyer.
Don't even put that out
and
there.
He becomes the new offensive coordinator, because I could essentially see it. So this guy, for people that don't know who John Boudmeyer is, he's an offensive analyst for us. And we picked him up. So he used to coach at Wisconsin, and like I don't know really what he all did at Wisconsin. And then he went to Colorado State to be an OC. And then I don't know if he got fired or something, or if he just decided to leave. But then we picked him up before last year to be like an offensive analyst to help us improve offensively. What has he done? Nothing. I mean, like, our offense has been crappy. Like, he came to kind of be the guy that helps with the quarterbacks during practice and help with the offense. And that is what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that Kirk is going to hire this guy to be the next offensive coordinator and then keep it in-house, same offense. And then almost kind of like a giant FU to the fan base, saying, well, it wasn't all Brian's fault. Like, that's what I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. Well, and I'm hoping that Beth gets involved and doesn't let that happen.
I was going to say, that's where that level of optimism, with Beth doing essentially everything correct so far, she needs to continue that, and she needs to have some say in who is the next offensive coordinator. Because you're right, if we go that direction, dude, we it's going to look the exact same as it has for however many years this offense has been as bad as it is. And that would be a giant FU to the fan base, by the way. That'd be crazy if he did. I really hope it doesn't get to that point, because let's face it, Kirk doesn't have a ton of years left, I don't think. And to end it that way, in that sort of selfish manner, would be, I would hate for it to go down like that. I really would.
See, and I just, like, at that point, I don't know how it really works with assistant coaches. If because I know a lot of the time, like, that's up to the head coach who they want. So, like, that's where it's like, does Beth even have,
I don't know,
kind of control on, like, because it's up to the head coach.
I didn't even know if she really had that much control on being like, okay, you're fired. Because usually the head coach fires the coordinators too.
Well, the reason why she does with Brian is because with the whole nepotism law, technically speaking, Brian's boss was not Kirk. It was the AD.
Okay.
So that's why, like, all these years with freaking Gary
I didn't know that.
Barta, it was like, this is so stupid because you are literally his boss. You could literally fire him now, and you're choosing not to. That's why I was so fed up with Gary.
Got it.
Insert Beth, and she does it within a couple months. Like, this is done. This is over. And honestly, frankly, if we would have hired Beth a year ago, Brian would not have been offensive coordinator this year. I think she would have ended it after last year. I think she came in, she was inserted, what was it, back in August? Like at that, you can't really do anything at that point. Like you got to let it play out a little bit, see how it goes. And essentially she let it play out until the bye week and essentially said, yeah, it's done. We're not doing this. So yeah, I don't know what the next step really is because it all kind of determines.
I was gonna say, I think it depends on what Kirk
decides
where
to
his
do.
headspace is at, and it's gonna start there, and then the search will be on.
There's a lot of people that think Kirk will retire. I just don't know. I mean, he still has 5 or 6 years left at $7-8 million.
Seems like a lot of.
I just don't know if he's gonna, just pass up on that. But maybe, like I said, maybe, and who knows where his headspace is right now. Is he deep down really pissed off at Beth and really pissed off at what's going on? Or did he actually accept it? And we gotta do something about this. And if that's the case, then I can see him staying. But if, maybe if he is really pissed off, maybe he decides like, I'm done. Like I'm done after this year. Who knows? All I know is Iowa, like we so badly need to find the right guy to turn this ship around, to bring in players that are willing to come to Iowa to play under an offensive coordinator that is proven. Like that's the thing, proven. I don't want to just get some random offensive coordinator that hasn't done anything. I want someone that is proven, that you can go back and be like, yeah, wow, like his offense was pretty good. Like he brought in some talent. Like that's what I want as the next offensive coordinator. I don't want this John Boudmeyer who would be the same thing. Like, I don't like if that's the guy, like I'd sit here. It's like, well, we might as well just keep Brian Ferentz at that point.
Well, yeah, no kidding. And it sounds like you kind of listed where he's been and what he's done. He hasn't done jack shit. So what gives me confidence that he's going to come in and it's all going to improve? There's no confidence there. So yeah, I 100% agree with you on that for sure. I just know, like you said, it's bigger than just a guy calling plays. It's so much bigger than that. It's showing recruits and showing even your own players on the team. Like, okay, yeah, we're going to change. This isn't acceptable. It's unacceptable. And, like we just mentioned, like with the transfer portal, like a guy like Caleb Brown, it's like, maybe he wants to stay now. Like, I don't know. Cause I thought he for sure would be out the door at this point.
And I was literally just going to bring that up. Like some of the players that are on the team right now, maybe they are actually willing to see how it plays out, see how it shakes out before they go in the transfer portal. Cause I would love to keep some of those guys. I know Caleb Brown hasn't done anything this year for us, but like, I would love to keep him because I know how talented he is.
Yes.
And how much potential he has. I would love to keep him.
100%.
Give him an actual offensive coordinator.
From Ohio State.
Yeah.
Come on.
Give him an actual offensive coordinator that knows what the hell they're doing. Like, hell yeah.
Can actually scheme him open. Like, and like, this is probably not the greatest example, but it's like, and Ohio State is known for their insane wide receivers, but like Marvin Harrison Jr., what do they do when it's a tight game and they need a first down? They're going to him, right?
Yep. They find ways to get him the ball.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying we have a Marvin Harrison Jr. on our team, but we can't find a way to get Caleb Brown the ball. Really? Okay. Then it's time for a change. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
One last thing before we end this too. Before we got on, I was scrolling through Twitter and David Eichel reposted
I saw
from
that.
last year's bye week when he asked Kirk Ferentz about firing a coach during the bye week, and he was essentially said no, like I'm never going to do that. Kirk has never actually fired an assistant coach ever before. And so that's when like, this was all Beth, which was awesome, which I just wanted to share that. I mean, it just goes to show that like this was all Beth's doing, which is really good. And that Kirk was never going to, like, at the end of the day, like, we could sit here and be like, oh, well, Kirk fired. He was never going to fire his son. He was never going to do that. And so
it's pretty evident.
I'm so glad that she stepped in and said, enough is enough. So we just got to get through these next 4 weeks, which, like I said, even though it's going to be exactly the same, like, I don't know why, but like, I feel like a spark inside of me. Like I'm actually now like excited for Hawkeye football again, even though I know it's still going to be ugly the rest of the way. I just know like I'm seeing what what the future kind of looks like now without Brian Ferentz as offensive coordinator.
There's some more clarity.
There is.
For sure.
But like I said,
the whole point of why she did it. She mentioned that. So
it's not over yet, because as long as Kirk Ferentz is still head coach, it could be exactly the same, whoever the next offensive coordinator is. I want to make that a point. I don't want to sit here and celebrate this because it is awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome. It's the first step. First step is done. But the next step is for Kirk to now come out and really say, and this would be after the year, obviously, come out and really say, like, we are going to change things. I am going to bring in blah, blah, blah. And he's going to do it. Yep.
He's got total control of the offense. I've got some input. I might, we'll work together, but it's his offense, right?
Yep. And that is when we will do a podcast, and I'll have a victory cigar.
I was going to say
other things, because at that point, things are going to change. Right now, it's a step in the right direction, but I'm not quite there ready to say, oh, we're going back, we're changing. We're going to be much different. I can't get to that point yet, because the head coach is still the head coach, and Kirk is still going to be there. And so we just got to wait and see how it goes. So it's going to be interesting to see Brian's approach the next 4 weeks.
I mean,
it's so weird for him. Like, how
that's like the awkward part. Like, why I'm like, man, he's like, I understand like letting it play out, but it's like, could you imagine how our fans, what they're gonna be like chanting and cheering like during the game?
Dude, that's why, like, if I was him, like if Beth told me like you're done after the year, I would just be like, can I just be done now?
Give him credit for if he is gonna stick this out, dude, because it's gonna be like weird.
It is. It's gonna be really weird. Literally knowing like I'm done. Like, that'd be like my boss coming up to me and being like, hey, I'm firing you. But it's going to be January 1st when you're fired. Like, I would be like, well, I guess for the next 2 months, I'm going to like not do, like, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. Right. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Brian's going to give it his all. Like, it's not, I don't want people to think that's what I think is going to happen. Like, it's just going to be like, I think he's going to give it his all, and who knows, maybe he'll, with the kind of knowing that it's going to be an end and not pressure anymore, maybe he kind of just, plays a little bit more free, coaches a little bit more free now. I mean, who knows how it's going to be.
Someone's like, what if like the reverse effect happens where like all of a sudden we just start like chucking it all over the yard and like,
who knows?
Well, I just, like I said, man, where would we be without Beth? Because I agree, I'm not going to celebrate yet, but it's a small victory, a small step in the right direction that would never have happened if she was not the AD right now. So exactly. Give her a lot of credit for sure.
Well, we will be back in a couple days. So we recorded this obviously Monday night, and I'll have this out immediately after we get done recording. But we will be back on Wednesday night recording for Thursday, and that's when we will talk the Northwestern game. We'll get more into the quarterback situation, because today they released a depth chart. Deacon Hill is still the starting quarterback, but if you've been an Iowa fan for so long, that depth charts don't mean anything. And there are rumors that Joey Labus might start. Who knows? So we'll talk about all that stuff. I think at this point, especially with all the news that came out today, you might as well just kind of blow it all up, and why not insert Joey and just see what happens, right? I mean, you're to the point there where it's like you might as well just do it. So, but we'll get into all that on Wednesday, and I'm sure we'll probably talk a little bit more about this as well, because I'm sure there'll be some more. Well, what I'm really looking forward to is Kirk's presser tomorrow. So they do a presser every Tuesday. Yep, at 1:30. So I'm sure there'll be some things that we will discuss, or I will jot down, and we'll discuss on the next episode. So, but that will do it for us. Brian Ferentz, no longer OC at Iowa. Well, I shouldn't say yet, but here in about 2 months, officially done. And all I'm going to say is build a statue for Beth Getz.
That statue. That's right.
Or at least make her the real AD, the permanent AD, because she deserves it. She has done everything good. I mean, no complaints so far with her. So, but all right, man. Well, thank you for joining. I mean, I thought it was a very good podcast, very good episode. So we will be back in a couple of days. So until then, have a good week and go Hawks.